Welcome everybody to another edition of TEW 2020 as we're continuing our WWE 2013 series that we started last week. Well, at least we started the shows last week. It's time for another edition of Raw, as it's a show before the go-home show for Extreme Rules, so we continue to build up for that show, and, push for everything else. So let's get rolling. We start with the Raw Open, which is, of course, Born in Your Eye and all that good stuff, as it's 73. As we continue on to the opening, which is basically Vickie Guerrero calling out both John Cena and Ryback, and basically announcing that tonight will be a pick your poison match for both men. Ryback will be at the end. Both Ryback and Cena will get to choose opponents for each other tonight. And just and that's basically it. She doesn't excuse me stuff. Cena says it doesn't matter who Ryback faces, he's going to persevere because of hustle and respect. Ryback says he'll just destroy Cena puts out, and it'll just be a preview of what happens when Cena faces a shell shock in the Last Man Standing match at Extreme Rules. This gets a 66 mainly. Let's see here. Yeah, mainly because Guerrero and Ryback aren't actually that over this, but what can you do? Then we go, have a quick segment where Fandango and Samurai are dancing to the ring as this gets a 43. And then we go on to our actual opening match of the night, which is Fandango and Samurai defeating Naomi and Brodus Clay in 3:38 when Fandango pinned Brodus Clay with a main jam, which I'll probably have to fix that, as this gets a 29, unfortunately. Samurai gets a 17, Fandango gets a 40, Brodus Clay gets a 35, Naomi gets a 29, and yeah, typical little opening match shenanigans. Fandango and Samurai get a little bit of advantage back after, getting embarrassed in the song contest, and the Funkadactyls lose a little bit of heat. And post-match, Fandango basically takes the mic as, Samurai is with him, as he basically, cuts a promo on Jericho, making fun of Jericho once again, for being a loser on Dancing with the Stars, and that at Extreme Rules, he will show Chris Jericho that he isn't the not only the best athlete in the WWE, but the best dancer, and Jericho is just old news. So we get that officially announced for Extreme Rules as we move forward. Basically, you can do nothing with Triple H. We'll call out Brock Lesnar next week, so show up for Raw for that, as that gets to 72. Then we go backstage where Bray Barrett tries to enters Vickie Guerrero's office. It says, he wants some competition, and Vickie basically says, he'll get some competition eventually when he decides he wants it, but don't be such a pushy, so pushy about it. And Barrett, looks a little disappointed again and walks away, as this gets a 64. Then we go backstage where R-Truth and Great Khali are backstage with Natty, and they talk over how they have to figure out who is the secret admirer of Kaitlyn before AJ Lee gets her title match against Kaitlyn, and Kaitlyn's too distracted to actually think about the title and loses it back to AJ. So Natty basically sends R-Truth and Great Khali off on another goose chase, as this gets a 56. Then we have ouch. Not our best match. Okay. I forgot Usos aren't that over yet. Anyway, Usos defeated Primo and Epico for 48 when Jey Uso pinned Primo Cologne with a double super kick. This gets a 23, even though everybody's in their 40s, and yeah. Forgot about the whole, Usos be on the other side. Not that over quite yet. Oh well, I'll have to remember that for next time around. And then Uso celebrates to a 49. Sheamus is walking, and now it's time for his match. Sheamus in the ring basically says, yes, on SmackDown, Henry got lucky and was able to, to actually slam me on the ground, and my back is a little painful, but that's going to take a lot more than that to take me down. So send out an opponent. I'll show Mark Henry exactly how bad a condition I actually am in. So this gets a 65. And Sheamus defeats Hunigo in 425 by pinfall the Brogue Kick, as this gets a 55. Sheamus gets a 66. Hunigo gets a 31. And then post-match, Mark Henry basically comes out, says, you little pale-skinned bastard. You want to see how tough you are? Then fight me in an arm wrestling match next week. Sheamus nods, and I guess the match is on for next week. Sheamus versus Mark Henry, an arm wrestling match 6 days before they face off at Extreme Rules. As we'll also officially announce that match. Then we have basically the little graphic on the stream saying there'll be a Miz TV next week with Randy Orton, as that gets a 63. And then we have our Truth and Kali are investigating, and they run into AJ Lee, who of course sends them off into a random locker room. Uh, says she thinks he heard somebody talking about Kaitlyn in there. Truth and Kali are happy about that as they run off, as that gets a 52. And then we have a pretty decent match. Unfortunately, not that good because these got over yet, but it says in a terrible match. Let's see, did dirt sheet actually hurt at that match? Let's see here. Okay, I mean, yeah, a little. Okay, not the end of the world. But anyway, in a terrible match, Shield defeated Evan Bourne and Gabriel and Kidd in 11:09 when Roman Reigns pinned Tyson Kidd with a spear. This gets a 48. Bourne gets a 48. Gabriel gets a 41. Kidd gets a 47. Ambrose gets a 59. Rollins gets a 58. Reigns gets a 58. Really, it says it's a terrible match, but come on. This would have been a good match, back and forth. Crowd not quite interested because Bourne and Gabriel Kidd aren't that over quite yet. But at the end, Roman's, Shield just a little bit better, our willed machine, and Roman's able to hit the spear on Kidd and get the 1, 2, 3. And post match, basically, Team Hell No with Kofi show up on the ramp and point at our friends, the Shield, and that gets 73 as the crowd pops. And then, we have a quick segment where basically Layla, not like undressed, but dressed in like a towel, but not like a little towel, but a towel, just, because we're still trying to have a little bit of sex appeal on the show. Chases our Truth and Kali out as they, they sorry, including Kali saying sorry like Kali would say sorry, which is hilarious, as that gets a 58. And then we have a segment where basically, Ryback and Cena have a showdown, and after a moment, like, JTG of all people show up to start brawling with Ryback as the bell rings, as this gets a 78. And then Ryback kills JTG in 135 bit. Pinfall is shell shocked as it gets a 45. Ryback laughs and says, "That was your challenge for me." And Cena's like, "No, that wasn't actually my opponent, but you fell for it." And out comes Zack Ryder to a pop as this gets a 72. And the actual match gets a 60 as in about that decent of the crowd, but subpar wrestling. Ryback pins Zack Ryder in 608 by pinfall with a shell shocked as it gets a 60, like I said. Ryback gets a 66. Zack Ryder gets a 50. So solid stuff. And then Ryback laughs at Cena as it gets a 67 as they have another stare down. And then we go backstage where Kidd is, upset over another loss, and Cesaro walks up to him and they walk off together chatting. As this gets a 52. And then we have Randy Orton backstage with a quick promo where basically, puts over the fact that, he struck at the Big Show last week, and anytime he can strike with an RKO, that's why he's the most dangerous wrestler in the WWE, and why at Extreme Rules, Big Show will just have to face that the bigger they are, the harder they get fall when it comes to the RKO. Then we have a basically backstage segment where Layla argues with Natty. Kaitlyn walks in with the newest gift, and Layla is basically mad at Natty's like, "I didn't tell him to go there. It must have been somebody else." And he's like, goes skate out in the ring, and I'll show you how much it is to have random men walk in your locker room. Natty shrugs and walks off as Kaitlyn is like happy about her gifts. As this gets a 46. Then in a tag team match, we had the Road Squallers defeating Kurt Hawkins and Yoshitatsu in 628 when Rhodes pins Yoshitatsu with a crossroads. This gets a 45, just a little heat building exercise for the Road Scholar as they get the win. Tatsu gets a 30, Hawkins gets a 34, Dame Sano gets a 34, and Cody Rhodes gets a 54. And Road Scholars calibrate to a 58. Then we have a quick match as Natalya Neidhart defeats Layla in 421 by submission with the sharpshooter as Alyssa gets a 31. Natty gets a 42, Layla gets a 44, and post-match, Natty, Kaitlyn, Kali, and R-Truth all celebrate to a 45. Then we have a back to the same where basically Swagger and Del Rio backstage, argue backstage over who's going to be the one who actually, wins the title at Extreme Rules. Both Zeb and Ricardo get their shots in it, at the other men. And finally, the challenge is made for SmackDown for it to be Swagger versus Del Rio in a 2 out of 3 falls match, and basically, determine who really does have the advantage before Extreme Rules. This gets a 51, so not the end of the world, but not that great either. And Cena is walking, which gets a 69. And out comes Ryback, who brings out the Big Show as John Cena's opponent. And then in the main event of the show, which gets a 71, Cena defeats Big Show in 13:31 with pay pinfall with the AA. Cena gets a 76, Big Show gets a 67. Just, as, looking at Ryback is going to interfere, but Randy Orton comes down to ringside, not out of a great love of John Cena, but to stop, the Big Show from getting the win. So they sort of argue and face off each other. At the end, John Cena is John Cena, so LOL, Cena wins. And then post-match, we have a big old, four-way brawl as, Ryback goes in after Cena, but so does Orton go after the Big Show. You'll for another RKO, but Big Show tosses him off and goes for the big punch, but Orton avoids that. But Show instead hits Ryback, who gets knocked down, and then they argue, but then they go after Cena and Orton, and it's a big brawl as the show ends to a 77. The show itself gets a 72. Again, not our best show ever, but I'm still sort of building and figuring this out. Just have to figure things out in the long run. What can you do? I mean, a lot, but yet again, what can you actually do? Your survey says, as we look at some hirings, fun stuff. Yes, I know. People are unhappy about stuff. But yeah, I mean, again, I'll need to figure out I don't know, maybe just really hype up things. But anyway, I'll be back in just a second with SmackDown, so you'll see that in just a moment. All right, and now it's time for WWE SmackDown, as we're in front of a little over 7,000 people in Worcester, Connecticut, or Rhode Island, right? Massachusetts. One of those small states in New England. Anyway, we start with Chris Jericho having a highlight with Dolph Ziggler and the rest of this crew here. As Jericho points out that Dolph is getting a little more cheers than normal these days, as the crowd pops for it. And Jericho says he doesn't really care about whether he gets faced or booed, but as long as he's getting cheered or booed, as long as he's stealing the show. And at Extreme Rules, he's going to take it to the extreme by winning the ladder match. It doesn't matter which of the two fools that are wrestling in a couple minutes try to take the title off of him. He already proved by winning the world title that he's the best wrestler. He's the best man he's the top star. No, god dang it, forgot. Okay, yeah, he says it doesn't matter which of those two goofs that are going to be wrestling each other 3 falls match here in a little bit try to take the title off of him during the ladder match. They're going to follow their feet just like everybody else has, because he's the future of the WWE, and that's why he has the World Heavyweight title. 81, perfectly solid promo, and there you go. Then we actually have the 2 out of 3 falls match between Swagger and Del Rio that I put together on Raw, and basically, this is kind of a eating up some time match, honestly. But in a poor match, Jack Swagger drew with Alberto Del Rio in 15-18, when basically, first, Swagger got a fall early, Del Rio fought back and got the fall back, and then eventually, it says they time like Swagger, but basically, they fought to the outside, and it was a double countout, and, they just continue to fight, as this gets a 67, Del Rio gets a 66, Swagger gets a 50, and then Swagger and Del Rio continue to fight. Both Zeb and Ricardo get involved. Booker T comes out and actually makes a match for later tonight, as it's going to be Ricardo Rodriguez versus Big E. But just to make things more interesting, Jack Swagger will be the special referee, but if he's biased in any way, Swagger will be removed from the ladder match at Extreme Rules. This gets a 49. Not the best thing, I probably should have rated Ricardo or Zeb, but, gotta do what you gotta do here to build some people up. Then we go backstage where Booker is getting back to his office, and Wade tries to ask Booker for some competition, but Booker waits and says, I'm busy, sucker. This gets a 70, and, interesting is Wade still wants some competition. Then we have a match where the primetime players defeat Kurt Hawkins and Yoshitatsu in 647, when Darren Young pins Kurt Hawkins with a gut check. This gets a 46. Titus gets a 46. Darren O'Neill gets a 47. Yoshitatsu gets a 32, and Kurt Hawkins gets a 35. Plain win, to give primetime players some more momentum. And primetime players celebrate afterwards to a 56 for so solid stuff for them as they continue, their rise up the rankings here in the WWE. And then, we get a quick package here. Del Rio, hypes up, Ricardo as, but he's really nervous, Ricardo says, forget the fact that he's much bigger than you, much larger than you, and a guy who hates me is a special reef. Just realize you're like me. You have the legacy of this business inside of you, and you will be successful no matter what. or sort of nods, I can do this, I can do this, and then he sort of freaks out again. Kami segment 53. Then about that triple wrestling, Nelson Crowley, Layla defeats Alicia Fox in 3-1 by submission. This gets a 34. Layla gets a 56. Alicia Fox gets a 53. Again, think what I rated them on. And yeah, just a quick win for Layla as she celebrates that first to a 51. Then again, more promo for Triple H will be calling out Brock next week on Raw as this gets a 68. Type that up. And then, yeah, I thought maybe I could fix this by having Jack Swagger as a ref. But anyway, an invisible match because it's 24. Big E defeats Ricardo Regis in 3:45 by pinfall with the big ending. Ricardo tries as he might, but Big E is Big E, and Ricardo is Ricardo, and Ricardo gets squashed. Big E gets a 42, Ricardo gets a 37. They actually have great chemistry, which is interesting. And then post-match, Dolph, AJ Lee, and Big E all celebrate at the ramp as Swagger and Del Rio continue to argue with each other post-match, as this gets a 68. And then we go backstage where Team Hell No basically, have a promo where, they talk about that Kane is going to be faced for Marines later tonight, but they know when, where one member of the Shield is, all of them is. So Daniel Bryan will also be down there at ringside to make sure no funny business happens because they have the power of friendship on their side, while the Shield are just hired mercenaries. 77, good, really good promo. Again, I sometimes forget how over these guys actually were, so I probably could have used them on Raw, but what can you do? Then we have Gabriel wants an explanation from Cesaro about why he's trying to convince Kid to come over to his side. Cesaro has come out to the ring, and I'll prove it to you. So Gabriel sort of nods, and we have a match for a little bit later. 42 because of a 2-minute segment, the guys aren't that over, but gotta build people up after all, right? Then we have Barrett basically running to the Big Show backstage, and Big Show sort of waves him over, and they disappear into a locker room to talk about something. Who knows what? As this gets a 72. Then about to have much heat in Trouble Wrestling, Mark Henry defeated Ted DiBiase Jr. in 4:51 by pinfall, the World Strongest Slam. This gets a 45. Henry gets a 62. DiBiase Jr. gets a 40. And yeah, this is just, quick squash. DiBiase gets a little bit of some face fire, but in the end, Mark Henry's Mark Henry, and he just destroys DiBiase Jr. in the end. And then he cuts in the promo and says, that's just, basically fools. That was just a little, that he got inducted to the Hall of Pain, but it's just a little preview of what's going to happen with that Lily White Sheamus first on Raw with the arm wrestling match, and then Extreme Rules, when I'm going to take him apart bit by bit. As this gets to 71, because Mark Henry is actually good at the talking thing. Then we have a match. Cesaro defeats Justin Gabriel in 6:41 by pinfall to neutralizer. So there's only 6 minutes or so, but this is all action. But Cesaro is a little bit better, so he gets a win over Gabriel. As this gets a 56, Cesaro gets a 57, and Gabriel gets a 41. And Cesaro then cuts a quick promo where he basically says, Tyson, can you be like your tag team partner, or you can actually move up in the WWE with me together, where nobody can top us with our combined talent. Again, quick promo, so only gets a 51, but gets the message across, so I want Kid to team with him. Then in a match which gets a 60, not quite as good as I wanted, but again, try to build things up. I'll have decent reaction from the crowd, but Power Wrestling from range pins Kane's by pinfall the spear following interference of Dean Ambrose. So, Brian's at ringside, will shoot Ambrose, things break down, Ambrose comes in, hits Kane with the sort of double arm DDT, that'll let Kane is woozy, boom, spear, Roman gets the big win over Kane. And post-match, of course, we have a 3-on-2 beatdown until Kofi, tries to make a save, but also gets beat down again as his Shield stand tall, as this gets a 62. Good stuff. Then we have Orton and The Miz are walking together as they're ready for their tag team match, as this gets a 66. And Barrett comes down as the Big Show's partner for the main event match, as it gets a 70. Then the match which gets a 69, so not bad. Orton and Miz have zero chemistry as partners, but Big Show and Wade Barrett actually do have excellent chemistry, which is interesting. So, in about that good heat, Power Wrestling, Big Show and Wade Barrett defeats Randy Orton and The Miz in 14:09 when the Big Show pinned Miz with the WMD. So, four-way, brawl on things, but Miz gets trapped in the ring, Show wallops him with the big punch, and 1, 2, 3, Big Show gets the win to end the show. Overall, this gets a 63, which not quite as good as I thought it was going to be. Again, part of this is just rebuilding, everybody's popularity bit by bit. So, just got to do that. As this was it's interesting. I could just actually put every big star in every show, but that's not realistic with what WWE in 2013 was actually doing. Again, words, they're hard, but I can get this through this. Let's see here. Any Anderson males? Oof. Oof. Yeah. Okay, that's unhappy. That's unfortunate. Well, what can you do? I mean, actually, yeah, book things correctly, but again, really, what can I do? I mean, I'm not that upset because I sort of knew that was going to happen. But yeah, storyline wise, everything's actually doing pretty decently, and we can rebuild everything up to because yeah, we're like literally a point off. So if we just have some good shows and rebuild people, we can easily do this. But yeah, I mean, not the best ending for the show I wanted, but these things unfortunately happen. But yeah, again, if we look at our pre-booking up to the last week before the pay-per-view, we've got Del Rio versus Spiker versus Ziggler in a ladder match, Fandango versus Chris Jericho, John Cena versus Ryback in a last man standing match, Mark Henry versus Sheamus in a match, Randy Orton versus The Big Show, and Triple H versus Brock Lesnar in a cage match. So really big matches. And yeah, I mean, oh, and actually, let me just pre-book that since I forgot to add both of those matches. So we got Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns versus Daniel Bryan and Kane, not Kaitlyn, for the Unified Tag Team titles. And we also have Seth Rollins versus Kofi Kingston for the US title. So, pretty good show. Yeah, I'll be back with this is basically it for this video. A little shorter than my previous video, but last video was actually going over everything, doing that setup for who's getting the Undertaker match and everything else. So, I mean, this will probably be the links of the actual videos with both shows, brought back at 2.5 hours officially, and all that other fun stuff. But that's it for now. So if you enjoyed this, go ahead and give it a like. Comment below on what you're enjoying and not enjoying, and subscribe to the channel for lots of TEW 2020 content, including this series, my MLW 2005 series, my long-running WCW 2001 series, now in 2004, and my WCW 1994 series, now heading towards Super Bowl. But that's that for now, so I'll talk to you later, and adios. Have a good one.